It was 1979 and punk had exploded in England. Metal music became unfashionable. But heavy metal would be resurrected shortly after the punk explosion by Neil Kay, owner of the Bandwagon Soundhouse and Iron Maiden. Neil Kay ran the Bandwagon Heavy Metal Soundhouse. It was kind of like a club where people would just headbang and listen to heavy metal music that was from newer bands on tapes and from older bands like Black Sabbath or Judas Priest. Places like the Heavy Metal Soundhouse sparked this new wave of British heavy metal. Steve Harris and Dave Murray gave Neil Kay the Soundhouse tapes, and it was requested for weeks on end at the Soundhouse. After much success there, they decided to play live at the Soundhouse, and the place was completely packed and surrounded. One record company offered to give them a record deal if they'd cut their hair and dye it and play punk music, and of course declined. Paul shortly after was arrested for having a knife on him, and the rest of the band had to play as a three-piece with Steve on vocals, and they had to increase the length of instrumental sections because Steve's vocals were not very good at all. When they had Paul back, they started to gain massive mainstream success, and they even had interviews and newspaper articles. Ryan Shepard of EMI Records signed Iron Maiden on his label instead of the other nearby band known as Def Leppard. But shortly after the signing and many shows after, Doug Sampson decided to leave for physical reasons. He just could not put up with the crazy amount of touring that Iron Maiden are legendary for. Soon after, Steve Harris recruited Dennis Stratton to join Iron Maiden for twin lead guitars, and Dennis, knowing that they didn't have a drummer, asked his friend Clive Burr to do drums. Clive Burr is a legendary drummer even to this day. He died in the 2000s of MS, but his mark on Iron Maiden will be there forever for his classic amazing fills, timing, and drum work that felt almost like a drum machine. He highly influenced the thrash drummers that would explode and the American wave of thrash metal. Then, with this new lineup, Iron Maiden played gigs relentlessly and recorded their first album, Iron Maiden, in 1979, but was released in 1980. Even though Steve highly disliked the production and never will love the album like others have, the album exploded and is still considered to be one of their greatest albums by many fans today. Because their manager Rod didn't think their image was strong enough and as bad boy enough, he sought out artist Derek Riggs to create Eddie, who looked a little punky and increased their image by a landslide. Eddie would go on to be the most classic metal mascot ever, and would be featured on all their albums, all their live sets, in different incarnations as trees, the sky, the pyramids, a mummy, the seventh son, Blade Runner, so on and so forth. They also released a successful single known as Running Free, where it showed Eddie's face blacked out. And then shortly after also released the single of Sanctuary, both very successful singles. And shortly after the release, like Iron Maiden always does, they toured relentlessly supporting their debut album. This is the classic and legendary album, Iron Maiden. Iron Maiden's debut album came out in 1980. The artwork, the original is really great, painted by Derek Riggs. Shows their great mascot, Eddie, which Derek said was supposed to be like the head of some American soldier on a Vietnamese tank, trying to gain sympathy for the war, whatever the fuck. Derek is just on some crazy acid, so who cares? But, controversial thing is that the remastered artwork features a whole different Eddie with like big ass red eyes and different hair over some weird background. Now, most people completely hate it. I don't completely hate it, especially the Eddie. Most people stomp on the Eddie. But I don't mind the remastered Eddie. What I more mind is the background, because the background of the original is cool. You know, it's a cool wall with some really nice sky and clouds and everything. It looks kind of stonerish and kind of punky, I guess. But in the remaster, just looks like someone smeared some shit everywhere all over the fucking background, so it's just a giant mess. The musicianship is top-notch in this album. Steve Harris is at his peak. Dave Murray, amazing solos. Clive Burr, amazing drumming, but not as good as the next two albums. Dennis Stratton, here's an interesting thing to talk about because he's going to be gone next album. His tone is kind of weird. It has a kind of clunky sound to it and it gets a little irritating. And a lot of his solos are kind of not as technical as Dave Murray. Dennis is kind of more melodic, stoner rockish, I guess you could say, sort of Pink Floyd. And then finally, Paul Di'Anno. He has some really great moments on this album where he sounds really melodic and really fits the music, but there's some moments where he improvises some stuff or just does some vocal lines that really don't make any sense. The production is another controversial subject. Steve Harris hated it, the band doesn't love it. A lot of people love it, and a lot of people think this is their best album, but the production is very weak in my opinion. I would highly prefer Martin Birch's work with them. The songwriting is also top-notch. Of course, Steve Harris wrote every song for the most part, and there's a couple of writing credits though. Paul Di'Anno did lyrics for, I believe, Running Free and Remember Tomorrow. And actually, Dave Murray wrote the entire song of Charlotte the Harlot without any help, so let's get into the tracks. Prowler is about a peeping Tom, but it's just a really badass song regardless of the bizarre lyrics. So the song starts with a really cool riff from Dennis, then we have Dave Murray come in with this really cool wah pedal lead part over top of it, which carries throughout the entire song, and he just does little different variations of it. It's really cool, a lot of great hammer-ons. The song comes in full force, a great riff and groove from the bass and drums working together. Everyone sounds vicious together and hard-hitting. This is one of the few songs in the album that really sound heavy metal to me, because there's a lot of different stuff like rock and melodic, progressive rock sort of stuff, stoner rock. There's a lot of interesting stuff to this album. And then we get past the main part, we have this cool build-up with Dennis Stratton doing some weird sort of guitar line, and then they explode with the classic Iron Maiden breakdown, where it's not really like a slow breakdown like a lot of people think. It's like fast fucking breakdown that goes into the middle section of guns blazing guitar solo from Dave Murray. Then after the crazy breakdown and soloing, it returns to sort of a reprise of the verse and Dave Murray doing that variation of the wah part. Then we get this amazing dive bomb slide, which for some reason I used to think was the bass. The song goes in a couple more reprises, and there we go, Prowler, an epic, amazing song. The musicianship is top-notch. Sadly enough, though, Dennis doesn't have a guitar solo on it, but the band completely shines, especially on the breakdown part, where they're just going full force, guns blazing, except for Paul Di'Anno, but his vocals shine throughout the rest of the song completely. Not really a bad vocal line from him. My only gripe is that the lyrics and the music don't really go well together because it's about a pervert, and then we have a really badass song. This doesn't really fit well together in my opinion. That's my only gripe. Then we move on to Remember Tomorrow. We slow down with a song that the lyrics were written by Paul Di'Anno, which he said was about his grandfather or something. His grandfather may have been an Air Force pilot in World War II, because there's all these little lyrics that kind of go to that. I think the song's more up to interpretation. It's just really weird lyrics. We have a really great melodic melody between Dennis and Dave during the main parts of the song. For the most part, Paul sounds great on it, but there's some parts that are questionably weird. Like, he does these weird notes, especially in the chorus. But for the most part, the verses sound beautiful, and the song is masterfully crafted, in my opinion. They make it into the middle section, which is amazing, has a really great breakdown. Then we have these really cool lead guitar lines, and Dave Murray just breaks into this amazing guitar solo. And we have this amazing bass and drum unison going on. Then we go into a solo from Dennis Stratton, which is equally cool in my opinion. They just complement each other really well. So after this amazing breakdown middle section, whatever you want to call it, it goes into a little bit of a reprise, returning to the verse type of thing. It's all melodic again. At the end, it has another fast breakdown that ends the song. Really great song as well. The only criticism I have for it is questionable vocal lines from Paul Di'Anno, but other than that, amazing song. Third track, Running Free, in my opinion, one of the most overrated Iron Maiden songs ever. It does have a cool live delivery, I guess you could say, but even then I don't like it because it just drags on and it's just a sort of audience repeat sort of shit, and I hate that. The only part I like from the song is this really cool, there's actually two different parts of both lead guitarists. doing this kind of twin lead type of breakdown sort of thing. Really cool, nice transitions, but for the most part I don't like the rest of the song. And I believe the song is about some kid running away from home and having a hell of a time. Nothing great, nothing bad. Now we strike pure gold with the 4th track, Phantom of the Opera. This song is the first Iron Maiden epic, I guess you could say. It's a progressive, longer song. It's about the Phantom of the Opera book/play. The song begins with this amazing bass line, because you could just tell the bass player writes every epic like this, because the bass drives every single amazing part in this entire song. The intro, the guitars, and everything follow the bass. This really cool, masterful riff, and then explodes into this fucking speed metal riff. And then it kind of slows down with this really melodic part. I think the guitars really dominate this section. It's really melodic, and then we slow down into kind of a stoner riff, I guess you could call it, where you'd think Dennis would want to do a solo here, but it's Dave Murray doing this really masterful, beautiful, melodic guitar solo. And then when it seems like it's over, unless you're looking at the time that is, the bass just comes in all guns blazing, and the guitars follow in different type of progressions. They follow beautifully at the beginning, then they progress more technical, and then it goes into a more riffy type of part that's really cool, and I really like that. It's really building up towards something. It's still building off that bass riff with this riff, and all of a sudden, boom! And we go into this really slow kind of groove riff, and we get some really nice lead guitar parts from, I believe it's Dave Murray, and then we get solos on top of that. Both of them are great. Dave Murray's is just fast as hell, shredding, and I actually really like Dennis's solo here really too. It sounds really badass and kind of bluesy, so they once again complement each other very well. Then we go back to full force, that fucking speed metal riff at the beginning for a little bit, and then ends the song. You can really tell this is a musicianship song, or just a musician's song. The vocals are cool. It does feel like he's cramming a lot in, because it's just, especially in the parts where each vocal part is, he's just kind of saying it really, really fast. He's like, oh shit, gotta get it in this time. It's cool though, because there's some parts that have these really nice melodies with backing vocals and the rest of the band. Overall though, amazing song, easily the best off the album, and in my opinion, one of the best Iron Maiden songs to date. Then move on to the 5th track, Transylvanian. Originally it was supposed to have lyrics, but Steve was way too lazy to write lyrics. And apparently it was also one of his first songs, because he wrote it with Smiler, I believe. It's a cool song, definitely, but it's not that progressive. There's 2 big movements. You can tell the bass kind of wrote it, but the guitars really dominate it, and it feels a little slow, the first movement. Then we get into the second movement, where everything's moving way faster. There's a lot of great melodic lines as well. There's a solo from Dennis Stratton, and then another great fast guitar part where it just returns to what it was doing right before with the second half of the song, the second movement, if you will. And then it goes into a Dave Murray solo, which they both, once again, complement each other well. They don't sound that different. So overall, good song, which kind of bleeds into the next song as well, because it has this melodic line that will begin the next song. So overall, good song. Then we get to the next track, Strange World, which is really interesting. The lyrics or meaning really means nothing. It's just kind of up to interpretation. It sounds like a stoner song, like Pink Floyd. Really weird. When I first heard it, I thought, did they just do this with Remember Tomorrow? Apparently this was one of Dennis Stratton's favorite songs, and he wanted to go in this direction on the next album. It has this really cool melodic line, and it kind of takes forever though, to be honest with you. And then we finally get into it with this amazing Dennis Stratton solo, which is easily probably the best off the album. This and Phantom of the Operas are amazing. So not too memorable, and then returns to the intro. The intro and middle part, which are the same thing, are kind of boring, but they just build up to these amazing solos from both of them. And this Dave Murray one is arguably better. Just these amazing moody solos that really drag you into the song. Probably the best part of the whole song, with the exception of Paul Di'Anno's vocals. These are also an amazing part of the song, because they're top-notch. I love the way he sings this song. It just sounds so unique. The best part of it was just the vocals and the guitar solos that were just so amazing. The songwriting could have been better. Then we get to Charlotte the Harlot. It's another continuous type of theme. Eddie's the continuous theme on every artwork for the most part, but Charlotte the Harlot has 4 songs about her throughout Iron Maiden's career.
This one starts with this really annoying, overly happy guitar line. The chorus is kind of cool. With a lot of the other Charlotte the Harlot songs, it goes into this middle part. It's just this slow melodic part. Now we get to the classic track Iron Maiden, which is technically the end of the album. They play it at the end of like every show. Has some really nice riffs. I do really like the first third of it. And then repeats the same thing lyrically as well. Same thing 3 times in a row, except for this little tiny middle part, which is kind of cool. Sort of a fun riffy song. Then we get to the bonus track, which I believe is either track 2 or track 6 or 7 or something on the remastered release. Sanctuary is really cool. I don't know why they kicked it off the album and didn't kick off Charlotte the Harlot or Running Free. This one's way better. I love it at live shows. In fact, I think it's better live. The production on it does sound weird, though, I gotta say. And the production on the album, once again, is kind of weak in general. The drums sound like boxes. The guitars just sound really twangy, I guess. The vocals sound okay. The bass sounds good though, but the drums and guitars just don't sound right for me. Just overall a real cool bluesy song that has this really nice middle section where you have solos from Dennis Stratton and Dave Murray complementing each other really nice. And then we get this really cool siren part. Bam! It sounds like a car crash. I believe this one is about escaping the law or something, so